Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Jason Gregerson. This video is going to be Introduction to Quizzes in Canvas. Alright, so here I am in a generic Canvas course and I want to create a quiz. So I'm going to navigate over here to the left tab and click on Quizzes. It's going to be my quizzes page, and to create a new quiz I'm simply going to hit the plus quiz option over here. And there's basically two parts to editing the quiz. There's the Details tab and the Question tab. So the Details tab here is where I can put my name in. So I can say this is a practice quiz like that guy. And then the quiz instructions. Notice when I put in the quiz instructions that I have access to my full page editing tools here, which means I could embed HuskyCast videos or regular media. I could put links, other things in here, and I could also link to my pages over here, other pages, or assignments, or add files or images. So all that regular editing stuff I can do in my quiz instructions. As I scroll down through some of the other details, there's lots of other things we can do. We can make it graded or ungraded. We can assign it to specific assignment groups. We can add time limits, shuffle answers. For the most part, you can read through these other settings that you can adjust on this. While not listed here, we can also require a lockdown browser for that through Respondus Lockdown Browser. We get down here where we can assign due date, so I can put a due date here, an available from date, and a lock date. So if you set the due date, students will still be able to submit the quiz until it's officially locked. And you can set point penalties for that in the generic gradebook. So you can read through the rest of the settings and kind of take a look at those. What we want to do is come up to the top here and go over and start editing some of the questions. All right, so here are the questions. I'm going to add a new question. And when I do that, I can choose from many different question types. So I can choose from multiple choice and another list of options for quiz questions. We're going to start with multiple choice. Here I can say, which is the best choice? And notice as I'm typing that in here, we have all of our regular editing tools. Same thing, we can add links over here on the right hand side. Now for multiple choice, I simply put in my options here. Options, option 1, option 2. And notice that when I'm entering my content here, if I want more advanced editing features, I can click on the little edit guy. And this will bring up a full editor, right? So now I can put in a video content or add some HTML, whatever I wanted to do here. All right, so now I have my option 1, I have my option 2, and then I simply indicate which one is correct by selecting that little green arrow. So I've identified the second option is correct. I hit update question, and I'm all set for my first question. Now notice if I wanted to create a block of questions, they're all very similar, I could create a new question group. So this is my matching questions, although I can't spell. I could say grab any 2 items from the group and make each one of them worth 4 points if I want. All right, and then I could just drag this so I can create the group, and I can just drag questions in here. So I could put 20 questions in the group, and then once the quiz was run, it would randomly pick 2 questions from the group worth 4 points each and give those to students. So you can get some variation in there as well. All right, I'm going to create a new question type here. All right, so we've seen multiple choice. Pretty much using the same format, I could go to multiple answers. And it's going to have the same structure as multiple choice, but now if I say option 1 and option 2, I could actually mark both of those correct. Right, so I could have 5 options and you might select 3 that are correct and 2 that are incorrect. So that's the multiple answers in. All right, what other options we have here? True or false, that should be pretty easy to use. We got fill in the blank. So in this case, I would just type my, and then fill out the rest, right? Like that guy, there's my blank, and they would put their answer down in here. Now the difference between fill in the blank is that now they're typing in their specific answer. So I might say I would type my question like this, and maybe that's what I want them to type. However, we got to be very careful with fill in the blank because students need to type this exactly. So if someone's typed in a lowercase q, if I didn't have this as another alternative option, they would mark that wrong. So you kind of have to account for spelling errors, any kind of variation, 2 spaces in between words, that can make this challenging. And actually it makes it pretty okay for numerical answers. So if the answer was 123, they're going to type in 123, and for the most part there's not going to be as many issues with the numerical answer versus a written answer. Where you do have to be careful is if maybe you had 0.23 as the answer, because some students will type that as 0.23 and some might just type 0.23, and of course if they round to a different value, it's just taking it like it was text, so I can't modify that. So that's how fill in the blank works. Now you say, why would you use numerical values there when we have a very specific numerical answer section? Well, the reason is because numerical answers, I can type in my question here, and I can say that the answer is 23, and I can set an error margin, and that's great, but I can only take one input for the answer, right? So there's only one numerical answer for this question. Now there might be questions I like to write that have multiple parts that I want students to put answers in, kind of for partial credit. To do that, I can actually go here into this fill in multiple blanks, right? So now I would type and right here is where I want my first blank, and I could put square brackets around this and say question 1, like that guy, and then fill out the rest of and then this would be my question 2, or my blank 2, right? And so down here, I'm going to be able to looks like I have a space in there, and it's not liking my space. All right, so there we go. We got question 1 and question 2. Now once I've surrounded the name of whatever this blank is called and use square brackets, now I come down here, I can see both of those options. So now I can put in what the correct answers were for this first one, answer 1, and down here, answer 2 is like acceptable variations of an answer. And I can put in the correct answers for question 2. So you can imagine you can write a multi-part question just putting these blanks in different spots. All right. All right, so we've looked at fill in the blanks, fill in multiple blanks. Now, if you're worried about how students are going to type their answer into those multiple blanks, another alternative is multiple dropdowns. And so here it's going to have the same general structure, and that this is going to be, one answer window right here, and this will be the second answer window, what's a name surrounded by square brackets. But now I'm going to have different options they can choose from that will be displayed for question 1 and question 2. So for question, we're going to do op 1 and op 2, and we're going to say that option 2 is actually the correct one. Both will be shown, but op 2 is going to be the correct one. And then for question 1, we'll say 1 and 2 here, something like this. Okay. All right, we're going to update that question. We'll take a peek at it later. So I like to use this question for maybe some conceptual questions. You might have something where it says the function is, and have an option of increasing or decreasing, and then say, which means that the value of the derivative at the point is something, positive, negative, or 0. And so they could choose from different options. So that's a nice way you can use that question. All right. Couple more question types to point out here. File uploads is kind of a nice one. Now, there's advantages and disadvantages to file upload. It's not going to show those files in speed grader like it would if you submit it to an assignment. So it makes it a little more challenging to grade. You actually have to download the file and then view it to assign points for this question. However, you can mass download all the files, and so that might give you an option to load it in Gradescope or grade it as one single PDF as well. So that's file upload. Essay questions is a great one to get feedback. Just be aware that you have to manually grade this one. So this is when you have to go through and manually grade by yourself. It won't auto-grade like some other quiz questions. But it is a great way to get open-ended questions and get feedback from students as well as assessing them. All right, and then the last one is formula question. So formula questions are these ones where we're basically writing algorithmically generated questions. And so for all these, they kind of give you a little example up here of what this might look like. So I'm just going to copy in their example, paste it in my question. Oops. All right, so they're saying, what is 5 plus x? Now they've identified a variable to be x, and so they enclose their variable with square brackets. When they enclose that variable in square brackets, it opens up this section down here. And so here we can set the range that we want to use x for. So we're going to let x values go from -3 to 20, something like that, right? And so this is the range of values for the parameter, and now we have to type in a formula for the result. And so the formula I'm going to use here is going to be 5 plus my variable of x. Okay, I'm going to save that guy, and then I can kind of see if everything's going correctly. So if I recompute this, it's going to generate a new parameter value of 19, and it's going to show me the result based on my formula. right? And so that result is what I'd like it to be. I have to be a little bit careful what you put in this formula here. So I can't put any operations like derivatives, so I actually have to compute and generate a long formula. Mathematica is actually great for that. And if you have questions about symbols up here, you just go to the Need Help guy, and it will show you what Canvas expects for different function types, right? So if you want to use absolute value, natural log, or trig suf, or some other functions, you can get a list of how those functions are used from that little help area. Okay, so now I have written the question, and we put a range of values in here. But now what we have to do is actually generate the questions that will be used. So in Canvas, it's not actually algorithmically giving a specific thing to the students and then checking their response. What it's doing is that we're setting up the parameters of the question, and now we're going to come down here and we're going to generate 50 possible combinations of parameter values and solutions, and then we're going to generate that, and it's basically going to create a giant question bank for me, right? So now it's generating parameter and solution pairs. And so now I can go ahead and update this question. All right, so those are the general question types. I'm going to go ahead and save my quiz now. And of course, it won't be visible until I actually publish that guide, but the thing I want to do real quickly is preview this. And so now I can see what is the best option. Here are my multiple choice. Notice I didn't put options in for these next one, but I also didn't delete them, and that's why they're still showing. So here we have those two guys, and then a little bit farther down we can see what that drop box option looks like. So here I put in my blanks, and so I would type and I can select which option I believe is correct, and I've already defined some of those to be correct or not. And then lastly I have what is 5 plus 19, and so I can see as the student that's going to choose a value for my x variable, and so I'd plug in x equals 24 into this guy and submit my quiz to practice. All right, so that's the general workflow of creating quizzes. Now remember, if you wanted to use this maybe as a structure for your online course, when I edited each one of those quizzes, there was an open-ended area for me to edit. So if I wanted, I could embed blocks of text in there, I could put instructional videos, and so there really is quite a few question types for you really to be creative in your question writing. All right, that's all I got here for quizzes. That concludes this video. Thanks for your time.